everybody, welcome back to the Wonder of Anime YouTube channel. My name is Lisa, and in this video we are jumping in to my X deep dive for part 2. So if you don't remember my last video, just need a quick refresher. I am rereading all of Clamp's work, and we're finally on X. Since the new print edition of X is split into 6 omnibuses with 3 volumes per omnibus, 3 volumes of the manga per omnibus, I've decided to split my video series into 6 videos, 1 per omnibus, just because it's a lot to get through. So this week we are on X2. Now, clearly I got like this, I went crazy. And I got like all of these sticky notes on here, and they're actually color coded and they all mean something. But I am so excited. I will say, for kind of like not an update, but kind of, I mentioned last video that I had my first volume of X since 2011 and it completely fell apart. Luckily, I did not have this problem with this volume 2, but I will say, and I'll mention it in my next video for volume 3, that it could be happening with volume 3, but it didn't fall apart to the extent of volume 1. But I did want to make sure I mentioned that because they are all published by the same publisher. So I don't know if, this was published back then. I don't know, girl. But let me tell you, it didn't fall apart this time. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be looking through my notes, y'all, because I took a lot of notes. I had a lot of fun. I've been wanting to do this series for a while, and as you guys know, I've been doing it in chronological order. So I read X before, and it is very painful for me. There's a lot of sadness in it. So I didn't binge read it because it's just, for me, like, it's too much. But it is a lot of fun reading it, and the story just keeps getting better and better. So of course, I have my notes, and we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna start with a summary. Of course, these are just brief summaries, kind of to get you up to speed to where we currently are in the manga. So we're volume 4, and where we last left off in volume 3, the Kamui's aunt had just been taken and her house had been burned down. Fuma is shown a vision or a dream that something related to Kamui, the end of the world, and like Kamui basically being evil. So volume 4 starts off Kamui, Sora, and Arashi. They're having dinner together, and they are learning from Sora about Kamui's family. Sora reveals that Kamui's family are from the Magami clan, which means that they are shadow sacrifices. So basically, in this story, shadow sacrifices in Japan, there's like these very powerful figures, and because they're very powerful political figures, a lot of bad things can happen for them. So you have a shadow sacrifice that's going to be taking the brunt of all the bad things that are coming your way. So curses people are putting them, negative energy, negative will, etc. If that person is to die, you die in their place. They kind of get Kamui caught up on that, and then they finally make their way to the bottom of the diet building to meet Hanoto. With this meeting, Hanoto is, basically, let me show you, Kamui, these dreams that you've been having, but I'm going to show you now again, and I'm just going to beg and plead you why you need to join us and save the world. When this happens, her sister Kano comes in, and she's like, bitch, you're not showing Kamui these dreams without showing him the other side. And then the volume ends. So volume 5, we meet my fave, which is Yuzuriha, and Yuzuriha Nekoi, and she is absolutely adorable. I just love her so much. But she ends up coming to the diet building with everyone else, and basically, since Kano hijacked the dream with Hanada, she brings Kamui back, because Kamui obviously is lashing out and is okay, what is going on? So Hanoto lets Kamui know, you actually do have a choice. Hanoto is you can be on our side. We are the 7 seals. We protect the humanity, or the other side, which is the 7 angels, and their best interests, they're the ones set to destroy the world. While this is happening, in comes our toxic fave. Am I exaggerating? Maybe people don't think of him positively. Sashiro. So he surprised, like, attacks everyone in this illusion. Cherry Blossom's going crazy. And Kamui's like, there's a lot going on. So Kamui ends up leaving, and he ends up meeting with Kotori, and they actually kind of have like a sweet, tender moment where Kamui stops trying to be like a hard ass for a second. Is actually just enjoying the moment with Kotori. Of course, they're not alone, because Sora and Arashi are in a tree, like, keeping tabs on him, which I get it. He's kind of all over the place, so of course they're going to want to be like, all right, let's make sure he's not flying off the handles. During this time, Karen, who we got a glimpse of at the end of volume 3, she's a beautiful woman in lingerie. She comes through and she lets him know, like, she's another 7 Seals, and she actually saw the moment that Kamui's aunt, Tokiko, was kidnapped. So she lets them know, hey, she has the message. When Tokiko was getting kidnapped, she made eye contact with Karen and let her know, like, burn this bitch down. So that's why she burned the house. And at the end of volume 3, when they get there, the house is, like, in flames. I feel like these volumes, just so much happens, but they're so short. It just goes so fast. So then we have in volume 6, Seishiro comes through, interrupts this moment with Kamui and Kotori, and puts them in an illusion. He starts attacking them and obviously putting Kotori in danger. But Fuma, who just kind of happened to be nearby, comes through and, like, breaks the illusion, which obviously is not supposed to happen because he's like a regular person. And he saves them. Fuma then starts acting strange, and he gets into this moment where he's, like, possessed and he's not himself. But then he snaps out of it and he doesn't remember anything that happens in the moment of that possession. Then they're back at home, and Fuma is basically confronting Kamui, but in a, like, loving friendship way. And he's like, we made promises to each other in childhood. Like, we were always going to have each other's back. We love each other. Like, why can't you lean on me? Like, I'm here to support you. Basically just being like, I'm here for you. And while this happened, Fuma has another moment where he snaps into somebody else. And then when he snaps out of it, he doesn't remember what happened. At the end, Aunt Tokiko comes back, and she's, like, bloody. She's about to be, like, dying. And she ends up giving birth to the second sacred sword. And just completely, similarly to Fuma and Kotori's mom, she completely just shreds to pieces. And they're left with the sacred sword. These 3 volumes definitely pack a punch, and they are so intense, but it goes so fast, like, when you're reading it, because you're just like, all right, like, what's happening? So I kind of in my annotations, I did just want to share some of my favorite parts. So as I did it, like, the orange tabs are, like, things that further clamp themes. The pink tabs are my favorite part. And then blue is, like, a moment that put me in my feels. And then green is something that furthers X's plot, as opposed to just clamp themes. So, of course, in this volume, I definitely had a lot of, like, moments that I was just like, okay, like, I love this. But definitely, we're going to shout out to them showing my baby Subaru here. Like, this little preview of Subaru. Of course, this outfit from Kotori was just, bro, if there's one thing that Clamp is going to do, is they're going to put these fucking outfits on people, and they're going to look absolutely bomb.com. Then we had another moment here where they reference Seishiro. Look at him. He's right here. I'm looking at my monitor so I can see what I'm showing you guys. And I feel bad that I get so excited at the mention of him, but it just excites me because I'm thinking about Subaru and them together. So this cute ass moment with Sora and Arashi, like, he's like, them two, they're one of my favorite ships in the Clamp universe. Another moment, this is the moment that I was talking about when Karen and Tokiko when they make eye contact and she tells her to burn the house. Now, this was kind of done mentally with like a certain magic, so it's not like she said it out loud and the people were there like hearing her. So here we have the spread of my baby Subaru. Look at him looking grown and just, Subaru, I love you so much. And then my final favorite moment here. So I'm going to be honest with y'all, and as with these X volumes, at the end of the volumes, there's always a side story that is reflective of a seven seal or of one of the seven angels. And at the end, the one, and this is kind of like going into what's going to be a future novels. For the end of volume 6, the side story is about my fave, Yuzuriha, and she meets Kusanagi, who is like older. This is one of my problematic ships. But since I first read X, I love them together. So it's this moment where like she realizes that he can see her dog, and then she starts crying. So I just wanted to share these. I didn't do this with the first volume of X, and that's because the book was falling apart. So there's that. But I since I started doing these annotations, I definitely will in the future, for future videos, share with you guys. As I structured these videos, my first video, I'm going to get into the continuous themes that I noticed picking up from the Clamp universe. So another continuing theme that I mentioned in the first video is women being badass. In this book, we get an in-depth meeting of Karen and Yuzuriha, who are both just powerful ass women being bomb.com. We learn about the Magami clan, specifically Kamui's mom and his aunt Tokiko. So they're immediately being bombed. And then we learn that Tokiko is, she gives birth to the second sacred sword. Now, here's another interesting Clamp theme that I discussed in my first video, which is fate. Is there fate, and can you change fate? Or do people have choices? This, again, we will see time and time again in different Clamp works, and it is always going to be an interesting... Within the story itself, we saw this in RG Veda, where people are like, everything is decided. And then it's like, well, it's only decided if you think it's decided. If you don't think it's decided, you can make a change. So this continuously is going to keep happening, especially in X, where we went from Kamui not having a choice. He was kind of presented to him like, oh, you got to save the earth. You got to be with the seven seals. Now it's presented like, oh, you have a choice. You can actually be a seven seal, or you can be one of the seven angels. Some of the newer themes that are brought up in, not newer themes like newer, but themes of Clamp themes that are brought up in these volumes that were not in volume 1 is Clamp's genderless beings. As I've discussed before, Clamp is always going to throw someone in there that presents female but doesn't have any gender. Somebody who presents male but doesn't have any gender, whether they're angels, whether they're created beings, whether they're gods, whether they're curses, like in RG Veda. Here in X, we have Nakuto, who is one of the seven angels, and they are an artificial being that they describe as being genderless. Another Clamp theme, protecting our loved ones and making promises. Clamp loves a childhood promise that you made when you was 10 and you said, I swear I'm gonna give my life to you, I'm gonna love you forever. Clamp, they love that. Like, I cannot remember a single promise I made to somebody last year. You think I'm gonna remember a promise I made when I was 5 or 6 to the neighborhood kid? No. But Clamp, they're gonna remember that promise. And then another theme that I picked up on, or something that Clamp loves to do, is the taken overness. So someone is momentarily possessed either with their true self or with a being that they're like fighting back. And some of these things aren't always specific to Clamp, but for me, these are themes that they have throughout a lot of their works. So the taken over immediately took me back to RG Veda with Ashura, where Ashura would be like chilling and then the evil real Ashura would take over. Another thing with This X series, it's so funny because I read X back when I was in high school, and maybe because I wasn't in my Fujoshi bag, a lot of things slipped over my head. And that is the like yaoi-esque relationship with Fuma and Kamui, and it definitely only gets stronger afterwards. But because I've been reading a lot of yaoi, this is one of the scenes, I think I have it in blue because of the feels, but look at this hug. Look at these faces. It's only gonna get worse. But it's so funny because when I think about X, and like, I mostly just think about Subaru and Seishiro because I love him so much. So seeing, like, now reading it back and seeing these parallels with Fuma and Kamui, which I'm definitely, when the time comes, going to be jumping in deeper into the parallels between Fuma and Kamui and Subaru and Seishiro, because that is something obviously that Clamp did on purpose, and they want you to see the parallels, and they themselves are making the parallels. So I will get into that in the next video. But it is just like, I was so focused on a Seishiro and Subaru revival because I read X as the sequel to Tokyo Babylon. So it's there. This is my second X 1999 deep dive video, and I literally was going to wait. I've been spacing out, like I said, how I've been reading these books, but I immediately had to jump into volume 3 just because there was just so much goodness happening. Like, I needed the story to continue because I was like, all right, like, what happens next? And with the X storyline, it's going to keep, I feel like the beginning does a lot of setting things up, and they kind of go back and forth because you're like collecting all the steals, you're collecting all the angels, and it's like, it's very convoluted, I feel like, in the beginning, and you can lose interest because they're trying to tell you who all these main players in the story are. But then after this volume and beyond, when things finally get finalized, you're like, all right, now we in the story, now I'm in it, now, like, let's see what is happening. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Listen, it's getting good. It's getting good, y'all. If you have been reading along, I don't know if anybody started reading along, but if you have, or of course you have thoughts, feelings, I definitely want to know them in the comments. So please be sure to share that information with me. Like I said, from here on out, I don't really have a memory of all the events that clearly after volume 9, I think, because I think I only had the physical books, like my older collection. I only had those up until volume 9. So after that, I don't remember most of what's coming next. So I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.